You're welcome back to SaharaTV. A couple days ago, a rather unfortunate incident happened in Ghana. There was a loud explosion in a fuel station which the National Fire Service says was caused by water, floodwaters seeping into the station's storage facility and pushing fuel up. We are now reaching out to a journalist who was on the ground and reported this rather unfortunate incident and can tell us more than probably most people can. We welcome Elton John Brobbey, senior broadcast journalist with Multimedia Group in Ghana. You're welcome to SaharaTV, Elton. Hello, Elton.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for making time for us. First of all, can you tell us what really happened from your reporting? What did you learn happened?
Well, there are so many reasons coming up, being assigned for as to the cause of this fire outbreak that killed almost 150 people. Now, we are being told that the generating set that was, providing power for this filling station exploded, leading to the fire outbreak. We are also being told that a nearby fire may have come into contact with, naked fuel running on the ground, and that may have sparked the fire, and that may have caused the explosion. We call it fire outbreak. The Ghana National Fire Service and the National Security Department of the place investigating the possible cause of the fire outbreak. But for now, when they heard a loud explosion, and that explosion led to the outbreak of the inferno that killed people who were taking shelter at the filling station because of the rains that came down last Wednesday. Now, the entirety of the law,
Elton, can you please reposition? Your line is a bit finicky. Could you please stand, just adjust yourself a bit to see if we can get better reception from you? Thank you.
Is it better now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So what I'm saying is that the information we have picked suggests that the fire may have occurred after an explosion, which people believe was caused by a power generating set that was used because the whole place was in darkness at the time of the flood.
Okay. So we're also hearing stories about somebody smoking a cigarette and flipping the butt, which caused that. Have you heard anything? What's the latest on this angle to the story?
Yes, we have heard it. It's so many theories come forth, and people are assigning so many for the cause of the fire. Like I said earlier on, the National Service personnel who are investigating this particular matter say they want to have a free hand to work, so they've called in of the place. They are investigating the issue. They have out the possibility of the fire occurring after the explosion caused by the power generation set that was on, because according to them, there was a lightning, and the lightning interfered with the power generating set, which led to the fire outbreak.
I see.
So it would be premature to, point to a certain direction. We may have to wait a little longer for the police and another personnel to get investigation.
That's understandable.
So that by Monday, yeah.
That's understandable. So tell us, you reported on this rather unfortunate story. What did you see when you first got to the place? First of all, how did you hear about it? And what was the first thing you saw when you got to the scene?
Yeah, on that particular day, it was the rain started around 4 p.m. and around 6 p.m. it went for people to review some of the roads in Accra. So we were in the office hoping for the rains to come down to try to subside before we would leave, and it didn't happen. Around 10:45, we got a call that the Ghana Commercial Bank Tower was on fire, and then When we followed it up, we realized that it wasn't really Ghana Commission, but indeed it was the oil filling station quite close to Ghana Commission, but that was on fire. And
yeah, please tell us what you were saying before, how you heard about this story and what you first saw when you got to the scene.
Yeah, so I said we got a call around 10:45 p.m. Somebody called to say that the Ghana Commercial Bank Tower, which is around Circle, was on fire. So we got to the scene at 11 p.m. At the same time, the Ghana Fire Service people also got there. And it took them about 2 hours before they will be able to start to fight the fire, because the nature of the flood waters was such that nobody was able to cross to the other side of the road to help with the rescue exercise. And so we stood about 100 meters away from where the incident was happening. And even from where we were standing, we could see people being burnt alive, people struggling to get out, few people struggling to get out of the, of the blazing fire because of the nature of the flood, they were unable to do so. So it took 2 hours before the person with Ghana Fire were able to, to get close to the action. They managed to rescue one person who was unconscious at the time they brought the person out. Later we were told that he died on his way to the hospital. And then around 2:45 a.m., eventually when they were able to, bring the fire under control, especially at the oil filling station side of the disaster, they asked us to cross over to the other side, because we went there with television cameras to capture the action. Well, on our way to the place, the whole place was in darkness, because an hour before the explosion, the Ministry of Communication here in Ghana issued a statement that the Achimota substation, which serves about 70% of Accra, had also experienced flooding. And so as a precautionary measure, they had to switch off power supply to almost the whole of Accra. So all those places, that particular place was in darkness as well. So it was difficult even moving to the exact spot because of the construction work. They've created a lot of, manholes and trenches, so we had to maneuver our way too carefully. When we got close to the Gulf filling station, it was still dark. And I must say that on my way to the Gulf filling station, initially I didn't know what I was working on. I was stepping on something soft. So when I used my mobile phone camera to look at what was beneath my feet, I realized that I was actually stepping on human, bodies. At that particular spot, I counted 4 people, a woman and 3, males, and it was a very horrifying sight.
Terrible,
people,
terrible.
Yeah,
indeed.
people who may have, who were just there to seek shelter and then ended up, dead. So when we moved closer, then I realized that the number, was quite huge than I anticipated. Bodies scattered all over the place. People who were in a commercial vehicle, a 15-seater Benz bus vehicle, all of them bent beyond recognition, including the driver and everybody involved. And there were about 12 vehicles also parked at the filling station. All the occupants in those vehicles also bent beyond recognition. People who worked at the filling station, people who have sought shelter at the filling station, hoping for the rain to subside so that they will continue their journey, all of them dead. At a adjoining house, about 4 of them, including the pharmacy, and I'm told that particular pharmacy recorded the highest number of casualties. Many people have sought refuge there, waiting for the rain to go down so that they will continue their journey. All of them bent to death. You couldn't even identify them.
Terrible news. Elton, let me ask you at this point, how far did the impact get from the filling station? There was an explosion and it affected, the surroundings. It wasn't just the gas station that was affected. Like you mentioned, there was also the pharmacy. How far did this explosion travel in terms of, say, meters?
We are looking at about 150 meters, and it is everything within that radius was reduced to ashes, including 3-story buildings, mobile phone shops, few other restaurants, and few other businesses on that particular stretch. And so 3 big story buildings were razed down, and then all those shops that were in front of those shops were also razed. And then so many vehicles were also destroyed in the process.
Terrible news. How did the fire service respond to this? You've already mentioned that it took them a while to actually tackle the fire, but that was only because of the floods. How quickly were they to respond to the actual emergency?
I think I got there the same time they also got there. So from the way they started up to when they got it under control, I am a living witness to all that happened. It took them 2 hours to actually start fighting the fire because I want to believe that the hole they were using was not long enough, and their vehicle could not cross to the other side of the road, so they had to park it at a nearby Shell filling station. That's where we all stood and what was unfolding. So it took them 2 hours, but within the 2 hours, they weren't idle. They actually rescued people who had been trapped in some of the buildings not far from where the fire was taking place. So within the 2 hours, some of them were strategizing on how best to fight the fire. Some of their colleagues were also engaged in rescuing people that were trapped. Eventually, when we were able to connect their hose together, they actually stood about 30 meters away from the fire and started, fighting the fire. And then when things were getting under control, they moved closer, and so they were able to bring it under control at around 3 a.m.
How about the National Disaster Management Organization? Were they present? Did you see them?
At the time of the incident, I saw only one person from the NADMO at the time of the incident. There was no ambulance around, so even those individuals who were rescued were left to their fate because there was no ambulance to take them to the nearest hospital. There was nobody there, apart from the fire service personnel and some personnel from the Ghana Police Service and some volunteers who helped in rescuing these people. There was no ambulance around to take them out. The only NADMO person I saw, help the fire service personnel. It was until the morning of Thursday around 4 a.m. when I saw NADMO people started coming.
Have any of the bodies been identified? Have any people come forward to identify and actually been able to identify some of these people as relatives, friends, etc.?
Yes, of course. I mean, there's been a lot of identification. I mean, people have been trooping in and out of the 37 military hospital and the Kolebu teaching hospital, and the identification process is still ongoing. I'm told that even some Muslims who died in the process, they have been buried already, so I'm sure that their family members were able to identify them. But what happens is that when you go to the hospital, you are first taken to the ward, the accident, the emergency center, and the trauma center. You are first taken to those places. And if you are able to identify your relation, then they take you to the morgue, and then you go to the other. But looking at the way some of the bodies are beyond recognition, I'm sure that is where the challenge will come in. Maybe they will have to do a DNA test to ascertain the identity of some of these individuals. For now,
was there? I'm sorry. Was there any international support? Did you see any form of international support?
Not really. I've yet to come across any international support, being given to this exercise. This morning, the Togolese president and the foreign affairs minister of the Ivory Coast, they came to Ghana to more of commiserate with the president and the people of Ghana. So they went to the scene. But beyond these foreign dignitaries, I'm yet to come across any foreign organization that is into this. Indeed, there's been an SOS call by the hospitals to people to come and donate blood. People need, places where they can be accommodated for the time being. And this evening, NADMO started the distribution of mattresses, blankets, and few other things that can help the people who are displaced to sleep on. But their main concern really has been that they want food and water, and NADMO did not bring any.
Finally, Elton, the president has declared 3 days of mourning for the victims and has also promised 50 million Ghana cedis to be given to the victims, the survivors, and their families. How are Ghanaians responding to the government's approach to the disaster?
I think some people are angry. They are angry because they think that authority has not been up and doing in addressing this perennial flooding in Accra once and for all. Indeed, Every year it happens. And even this week, it happened Tuesday morning. And I'm sure that was a warning to the city. But they failed to act. And Wednesday was actually the real action. Now, there's been a lot of calls. There's been, pronouncements to the effect that they may want to undertake demolition of buildings sited in waterways. Government 50 million. Ghana said that it has asked the finance ministry to release. Part will go into the construction of some drains in the capital to ensure that when it rains, the floodwaters will have a place to go instead of destroying homes and then, killing people. But again, concerns have been raised about government owns commitment in some of these things. As a parliamentary correspondent myself, I'm aware that in 2012, government of Ghana, the Parliament of Ghana approved a loan agreement between Ghana government and the United Kingdom, about 98 million pounds sterling. And this money was approved to enable government construct storm drains all in Accra to address this particular flooding issue that has become a yearly routine. Now, from 2012 up to now, we are yet to come across the construction of any. The money was taken. We don't know what the money was used for. So even today, when I went to Parliament, I took custody of the parliamentary Hansard of that day, the 31st of October 2012, when the money was approved. And indeed, it is clear that government presented a program which says that they were going to use the money for this purpose. That's the more reason why the UK government supported it. Now we are hearing that the president has asked that 50 million Ghana cedis pass to go into the construction of storm drain. And in the days to come, these are the issues we will put into government people. You went for this money for this purpose. It did not happen. Now, and that may be the reason why people continue to die when it floods in Accra.
That will also be a very legitimate question to ask government. Thank you so much, Elton John Brobbey, and congratulations for good work done. And we'll reach out to you as the days come and see what the update to this rather disturbing story is. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Elton John Brobbey is a senior broadcast journalist with the Multimedia Group in Accra. SaharaTV, stay tuned, there's more coming.